The Department of Cannabis Regulation, or DCR, is recording this meeting by audio and visual means. By continuing with this meeting, you consent to this recording and acknowledge that the Department of Cannabis Regulation owns the recording and may use or reproduce it in any manner it deems necessary. If you do not consent to being recorded, please discontinue your participation in this meeting. Good afternoon and good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. This is a quick look at our agenda for this evening. We're going to go through some welcome and introductions. Then we're going to give some background on LA cannabis policy and the role of DCR and the commission. And then we'll go over Spark, review questions we received throughout the event. Please use your Q&A function to ask questions. We'll go into some additional information on staying connected to Spark, and then we'll go into closing remarks. Again, thank you for joining our Spark session. Here's a few guidelines to keep it a great conversation and a great meeting. Please be respectful. Keep your line on mute unless given permission. If you have a question, please put it into the question box or raise your hand. Renaming yourself is available, but only make it appropriate. And please submit general questions, again, using the Q&A function of the Zoom. Specific licensing and application questions should be submitted to dcrlicensing@lacity.org. Hello, and welcome to today's Spark session. My name is Raina, and I am the Public Relations Specialist for the Department of Cannabis Regulation, or DCR. On Tuesday, April 20th, 2021, DCR launched Spark. Spark is a multifaceted program aimed at engaging a diverse group of thought leaders, community-based organizations, nonprofits, businesses, educators, and others, such as those attending tonight, via the collection of stakeholder comments, administration of stakeholder surveys, and administration of one-on-one stakeholder interviews and on-screen facilitated stakeholder discussions. This is the first Spark session in a series of 8, which DCR will be hosting with MBI Media. Today's session will give all community members and stakeholders a general background on cannabis policy in LA, DCR's licensing program, and the city's social equity program. We understand that many attendees tonight have a basic understanding of DCR, our programs and policies. However, we want to make sure that those attending who have no knowledge of DCR walk away with the tools they can use to engage with DCR via Spark and other means. Feel free to submit questions through the questions and answer function at the bottom of your Zoom and throughout the event. We'll be answering these questions at the end of the event. Prior to us going in depth about Spark, DCR, cannabis policy in LA, and the social equity program, I'd like to introduce key members of the DCR team, the Cannabis Regulation Commission, and MBI Media, the agency administering Spark. I will now hand the presentation over to DCR's Executive Director, Kat Packer, to provide additional opening remarks and introduce our additional presenters.
Thank you so much, Ms. Plummer, and welcome. My name is Kat Packer, and I am the Executive Director of the City of Los Angeles Department of Cannabis Regulation. We are happy to have you all here today. In 2019, the Department of Cannabis Regulation was allocated funding specifically to use for education and outreach programming. And once these resources were allocated, DCR began the process to identify and design policies and programs that would allow us to more intentionally collect feedback from stakeholders. We first released a request for proposals to identify a vendor who could help us design and implement related education and outreach programming. At the time, the initiative was referred to as stakeholder meetings and community listening sessions. After completing the procurement process and contracting process, which included reviewing a number of proposals, holding interviews, mock sessions, and doing reference checks, DCR has selected MBI Media as the successful vendor. Since this selection, DCR and MBI Media have partnered to design this initiative, hereafter referred to as SPARK. Last Tuesday on 4/20, DCR launched its SPARK initiative. Many of you are probably wondering, how does SPARK differ from anything else that DCR has done? After all, we do have a Cannabis Regulation Commission. You'll hear from some of our commissioners. And at those Cannabis Regulation Commission meetings, we collect public comments, and we do have an opportunity to hear from the community. But we recognized that we needed a better way, a more organized way, and a more intentional way to engage and collect feedback from stakeholders. And particularly due to COVID-19, we wanted to try and find a way to connect with stakeholders, residents in the city of Los Angeles, people who work and live in the city of Los Angeles, people who buy cannabis in the city of Los Angeles. We want to be able to hear from you and to have another forum to receive input about cannabis in our community. SPARK is unique in that is a targeted tool and an additional forum for folks to share information. Participants of SPARK should see themselves as a part of a almost a focus group or a study that will provide information to the department and commission that we can use in our role and responsibility to advise the city of Los Angeles, including our mayor and our city council, on cannabis and cannabis policy in the city. This is the place to give your input, as feedback received through SPARK will be used to create a report with specific recommendations that will help us to take action on these policy and program recommendations. So we want to hear directly from you. Again, this is a means for both the Department of Cannabis Regulation, and we've invited the Cannabis Regulation Commission to use SPARK as a tool to receive information from stakeholders in the community in a more organized fashion that also allows us to analyze that information in a more intentional way. As we've received different comments through forums such as the commission meetings and through different licensing processes, we are limited by what we can do and what we conceptualize. And we want to be able to more intentionally bring recommendations for our city leadership. SPARK will allow us to collect and analyze your input to make recommendations to the city council and mayor. And with SPARK, we are and will be able to be more bold with our approach to outreach, engagement, and social equity. Right now, I'd like to briefly introduce the other folks who will be presenting today. First, I'd like to introduce additional members of my team who will be presenting tonight. Dr. Amani Brown, the Social Equity Program Director, and Rocky Wiles, our Compliance and Operations Manager. Can you both say hello?
Good evening, everyone. We're so happy to have you all join us tonight.
Thank you both. I'd like to introduce as well two members of our Cannabis Regulation Commission, President Robert Ahn and Vice President Thyris Mason. They will be providing additional information on the Cannabis Regulation Commission later in today's program. President Ahn and Vice President Mason, can you say hello and introduce yourselves as well?
Sure. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm President Robert Ahn of the Cannabis Commission. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Look forward to speaking with you all later.
Good evening, everyone. I am Vice President Thyris Mason, and I am happy to be here and excited to share this space with you this evening.
Thank you so much, commissioners. Now I'd like to introduce MBI Media.
Hi, my name is Pamela Taya Smith, and I'm with MBI Media. And I'd like to say good evening to everyone that's joined us today. A little background, MBI Media is a strategic communication media firm that designs and implements public engagement campaigns along with other specialized services. And we're very proud to be a part of this project with DCR.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Thank you to my staff, commissioners and MBI Media for joining us and for helping to lead these conversations, and particularly tonight's general Spark session. We hope that tonight's session is informative. We look forward to speaking and engaging with everyone. And we really want to use this as an opportunity, these Spark sessions, as an opportunity to spark a conversation about cannabis in our community. And we hope that throughout this initiative, throughout the Spark session, if you hear something that makes you think, this is something we need to change about cannabis policy, or this is a type of program that I'd like to see as it relates to cannabis. Feel free to use the different tools that we'll share, the different Spark tools that we will share information on later on in today's presentation, because we have created a number of different ways for folks to connect and share that information directly with us. Next slide. So as we mentioned, we know that many of the folks who are on tonight's Spark session, both the participants and panelists, and folks who are listening in, consider themselves stakeholders in this process, folks who have an opinion on cannabis policy or have been impacted by cannabis policy. We know the impacts that cannabis policy has had on communities. And we know that there are many folks who are on this call who have probably joined us at different commission meetings and may have been a part of this process and engaged from the beginning. We want to make sure that you continue to stay engaged in this process and can share information with us through Spark. But we also intentionally did broader outreach to pull in folks who may not normally consider themselves stakeholders or folks who are included in the public engagement and public participation process. And so for that reason, we do want to make sure that tonight, as a part of tonight's general session, we have an opportunity to just share some very basic information about cannabis policy in the city of Los Angeles, and to share information about the role of the Department of Cannabis Regulation and the role of the Cannabis Regulation Commission. Because primarily, what we want to be able to do is improve our ability to be successful in our roles, particularly in advising the city council and mayor on cannabis policy. So we will do somewhat of a cannabis policy one-on-one. And I'd first like to review some of the history of cannabis policy in the city of Los Angeles before moving on to other topics. In June of 2017, the Medical Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act and the Adult Use of Marijuana Act merged to create the Medicinal and Adult Use Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act, which essentially was the state's framework for legalization so that people could both legally sell cannabis and purchase cannabis, particularly for patients and adults who were 21 and older. The city of Los Angeles, however, prior to 2017, did not have a framework for commercialization, essentially the licensure of businesses. Nor did we have that infrastructure or a licensing or regulatory program for medical cannabis businesses. So it was the first time that in 2017, folks in the city of Los Angeles, through a voter initiative, which was at the time referred to as Measure M, voters in the city of Los Angeles said we also, as a city, would like to legalize the sale of adult use cannabis, and we want to be able to do the same with medical cannabis. We want to tax, regulate, and enforce cannabis activity. And so after the initiative passed in March of 2017, which gave the city the first time authority to license and regulate cannabis businesses, the city of Los Angeles established a Department of Cannabis Regulation and a 5-member Cannabis Regulation Commission to advise and administer the city's cannabis policies. And since that time, since 2017, a lot has happened. Next slide. So I was appointed to serve as the executive director of the Department of Cannabis Regulation in August of 2017. The city of Los Angeles and the state of California began to both license adult use sales, sales for adults 21 and older, and to issue licenses for businesses who were engaged in what we call commercial cannabis activity. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into what that actually means, the different license types, for example, that the city of Los Angeles makes available to businesses. But in addition to the establishment of the department and the commission, there was a first-time effort that happened at the end of 2017 to create the laws and regulations that the department and the commission would be responsible for administering. It is these particular policies that the department is charged with, that we follow when we implement different licensing processes. So for example, the ordinance that the city of Los Angeles passed required that we process applications in a certain order. It required that businesses be a certain distance away from schools and public parks. It articulated that we were to have a social equity program, a program that you'll hear Dr. Amani Brown talk about at length later. But it's these cannabis procedures ordinances and a number of other local policies that the department has been specifically charged with implementing over the course of the last several years. And to be honest, and this is part of the reason why we're doing this, we are still figuring it out. We have gone through this process over the course of the last almost 4 years now, and we've had many lessons along the way. And how we've been able to turn those lessons and show progress has largely been by being able to hear directly from stakeholders. For an example, case in point, just last year, we went through a process where the Department of Cannabis Regulation, and as was supported by our Cannabis Regulation Commissioners, rewrote half of the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance to try and make the process more streamlined, to provide additional protections and resources through the social equity program. But we recognize that it's a process, and in order for us to continue to make progress on that process, we need to be constantly engaged with communities so we can take concerns back to policymakers, advise them on different solutions. And part of what I'm most excited about and most interested in is using Spark as a vehicle to engage with different residents and community members here in the city of Los Angeles, and to ensure that our elected leadership understands the impact of cannabis policy. And I want to make sure that we have stakeholder and community-driven policies. We've done our best to do that to date, but again, we want to be more intentional about that effort. We are interested in being bold with the policy recommendations that we've made. And we know that we have an opportunity and a responsibility as what is often referred to as the world's largest cannabis market, to model responsible and equitable cannabis policy. And I know that we still have a lot of work to do in that regard. You all are getting to hear some audio from my husky, so I apologize. So since 2017, the department has been busy implementing first-time policy, working with a number of different stakeholders, agencies, elected officials all across the city of Los Angeles and the state of California. And we want to be able to continue to build upon that work. Next slide. I mentioned previously that last summer, the city of Los Angeles comprehensively amended the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance. And it's this Cannabis Procedures Ordinance, again, that details the licensing process and the ways that cannabis licensing is supposed to be administered in the city of Los Angeles. But the reality is that both the department and the commission have the authority to advise the city of Los Angeles on cannabis policy more generally. And so we want to make sure that as we move forward with SPARK and are hearing from different communities, that we have the opportunity to not just focus on licensing, though we recognize that licensing is a critically important conversation. There are community members who have concerns about cannabis businesses in their community. There are community members who would like to see more diverse businesses in their community. There are folks who are patients who want to make sure that they have access to cannabis. We want to make sure that we're broadening this conversation about cannabis policy in the city of Los Angeles beyond our licensing and regulatory program. But as a case study, we have seen our ability to comprehensively make recommendations to our leadership, and our leadership trust us in adopting those recommendations. And so we want to be able to bring the same type of momentum, the same type of ability to move bold and radical change and just necessary change forward so that we can build upon the history of cannabis policy in LA. Cannabis laws and policies are continuously evolving at every single level of government, here in the city, at the county, state, and there are even conversations that are continuing to move forward at the federal level. We encourage members of the public, particularly those who see themselves as being impacted by cannabis policy, to stay engaged and to stay informed about cannabis law and policy with the city of Los Angeles. And we want to make sure that we have vehicles to ensure that we are constantly sharing information with folks so you all can stay engaged and informed, because we recognize that what we do here in the city of Los Angeles is going to have consequences not only here in the city, but again, globally, as folks look around to try and assess best practices and lessons learned. Now I'll provide some specific background about the role of the Department of Cannabis Regulation, and then we'll hear from our commissioners who will share specific information about their role and the role of the Cannabis Regulation Commission. The Department of Cannabis Regulation is specifically responsible for administering the commercial cannabis licensing and regulatory program established by the Los Angeles City Council. Specifically, DCR processes the applications for commercial cannabis activity licenses here in the city of Los Angeles. If you want to operate a business in the cannabis business in the city of Los Angeles, you must receive a license from the department or the Cannabis Regulation Commission. We make licensing determinations or licensing recommendations to the commission, and we're also responsible for the oversight of licensed cannabis businesses in the city. We also oversee the administration and implementation of our social equity program. And again, Dr. Amani Brown, our social equity program director, will share more information about that program shortly. And we're very excited about this program because the city of Los Angeles was one of the first jurisdictions in the nation to establish specific policy to acknowledge and in part to try to address the harms of the war on drugs, particularly harms experienced by way of cannabis criminalization and its enforcement. And we know that it's been disproportionately impactful to Black and Brown communities. And so in part because of the work that the city of Los Angeles has done and that stakeholders have pushed the city of Los Angeles to do, we're now in a position across the country where folks recognize that it's not so much about if cannabis legalization is going to occur, but when cannabis legalization is going to occur. And we're starting to have a raised consciousness that we're not going to see legalization initiatives happen without some form of acknowledgement and means to address those harms. And again, one of those ways is to try and provide access to licensure, but it's just one strategy. Again, the department works closely and alongside a cannabis regulation commission. I am proud to work alongside the leadership of this Cannabis Regulation Commission. And I'll now turn things over to the Cannabis Regulation Commission President and Vice President to speak for a few minutes on the Commission's role in cannabis policy and the licensing program here in the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you, Director Packer. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robert Ahn, and I'm the Cannabis Regulation Commission President.
Good evening, everyone. I am Thyris Mason, and I serve as the Cannabis Regulation Commission Vice President.
Thank you. Before I begin, I just want to take some time to thank DCR staff for, you spent a lot of hours preparing for this initiative. This has never been done by the department. We are very excited to see what comes from this initiative. It's extremely vital to our roles as commissioners to have the opportunity to speak directly to the public about our roles and what we're hoping to achieve through this Spark initiative. At this time, I think it's worthwhile to briefly review the background and the role of the Cannabis Regulation Commission. You just heard from Director Packer describing the role of DCR. And at this time, I want to talk a little bit about how the commission works, what our role is, and how we interface with the department. I get a lot of questions specifically about what exactly the role of the commission is, what we can and cannot do. And it's clear from some of the comment that we get at our commission hearings from the public comment that there is some level of confusion or misunderstanding as far as what our roles are. So I think it's worthwhile to briefly go over that and explain what that is. The Cannabis Regulation Commission was established by ordinance on July 30th of 2017. And this commission holds a number of important roles as it relates to licensing, regulations, and the social equity program here in the city of Los Angeles. We are a 5-member commission appointed by Mayor Garcetti, and each of us come from a diverse background and each of us bring a unique perspective to our roles. The commission monitors and reviews local, state, and national efforts to implement cannabis-related laws and regulations. We also make recommendations to the mayor and city council for the adoption of city laws and regulations pertaining to cannabis-related activities in the city. And I just kind of want to reiterate this point. This commission, we are not a lawmaking body. We are advisory and we make recommendations, but we as the commission do not have the legal authority to actually implement and make laws. The commission also implements the laws and regulations adopted by the city council, consistent with the duties of the Department of Cannabis Regulation set forth in Article 4 of the LA Municipal Code relating to cannabis-related activity in the city. Additionally, the commission holds hearings related to issuing licenses to applicants for cannabis-related activity in the city. Moving forward, we can anticipate having a commission hearing at least on a monthly basis. And as we go through the process and as the industry evolves, we will revisit that schedule and we will schedule accordingly. Finally, the commission can present recommendations to the city council for amendments and to the city's rules and regulations. This Spark initiative is extremely imperative from what I can see to the future of cannabis policy in Los Angeles. Your participation in these programs and these Spark sessions, the surveys, the comment boxes, they're all going to provide us with direct input from the public, from the stakeholders, and we absolutely need your input. This is, we are truly doing something that's never been done before, and it's going to require a public partnership, public and private partnership, shall I say. And that input is going to be vital so that we have those data points and we can figure out together how best to move forward. Let's go to the next slide.
Our view, I don't know what's wrong with my sound today, but our views on cannabis policy as individual commissioners are impartial, and they are guided by the community at large. Spark is an excellent way for us to engage with all of you, along with attending Cannabis Regulation Commission meetings. The commission meets monthly on the first and third Thursday of every month. Since the onset of COVID-19 pandemic, the Cannabis Regulation Commission meetings have been held virtually. These can be viewed on the department's homepage or through Zoom. You can get information on upcoming meetings by visiting the DCR website under the About Menu's Cannabis Regulation Commission submenu. To participate in a Cannabis Regulation Commission meeting, please visit DCR's website for additional information.
Thank you, Commissioner Mason. The Cannabis Regulation Commission is looking forward to engaging the community. We do so not only through the commission meetings, but also moving forward through the Spark initiative. So we're very excited about this opportunity. I've asked each of the commissioners to attend the remaining Spark sessions so that we can hear directly from the community and stakeholders so that we can better serve all of you moving forward. I will now pass the presentation back over to Ms. Rocky Wiles, the Compliance and Operations Manager, who will provide additional information on DCR's licensing program.
Thank you, President An, and good evening, everybody. My name is Rocky Wiles. I am the department's Compliance and Operations Manager, and I will now give you some background on DCR's licensing program. Next slide, please. In order to participate in commercial cannabis activity within the city of Los Angeles, both a state license and a local license are required. The Cannabis Procedures Ordinance, as the name suggests, establishes the procedure that the department and the commission are required to follow in order to process commercial cannabis license applications, and further sets forth requirements of applicants and licensees. The ordinance authorizes the department and the commission to issue commercial cannabis activity licenses for cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, testing, retail, and delivery. The ordinance prohibits outdoor commercial cannabis cultivation. Before making license applications available to other applicants, local law required DCR to administer application processing for existing operators pursuant to Los Angeles Municipal Code sections 104.07 and 104.08. Applicants who applied during this window are often referred to as phase 1 and phase 2 applicants, respectively. Application processing period for both of these application phases is now closed, however. Next slide, please. The city of Los Angeles restricts, I apologize for my dogs. The city of Los Angeles restricts where commercial cannabis activity may lawfully occur. The city allows commercial cannabis activity in specific zones, and sensitive use restrictions include, but may not be limited to the following. A licensed retail storefront must be outside of a 700-foot radius of a school, public park, public library, alcoholism or drug abuse recovery or treatment facility, daycare center, permanent supportive housing, and other licensed storefront retailers. a licensed storefront retail, non-storefront retail, or otherwise known as delivery, distributor, cultivator, non-volatile manufacturer, or testing lab must be outside of a 600-foot radius of any school. A volatile manufacturer must be outside of a 600-foot radius of any school and a 200-foot radius of any residentially zoned property. Next slide, please. Commercial cannabis licensing is categorized in 3 distinct phases in the city. To date, DCR has already administered application processing to existing operators, as previously mentioned, pursuant to LAMC 104.7 and 104.8. Phase 1 were the existing medical marijuana dispensaries, also known as EMMDs. This application processing began in January 2018 and is now closed. Phase 2 involved the EMMD supply chain, and it began in August of 2018. That phase is also closed. Phase 3 involved new businesses for social equity applicants, which began in September of 2019, and for which DCR has already identified 200 social equity individual applicants. In October of 2020, DCR opened application processing for general applicants and delivery for social equity individual applicants. This application processing window remains open. As just mentioned, DCR has concluded its review of Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applications and identified 200 social equity individual applicants eligible for further processing. These 200 applicants may receive temporary approval to operate a retail storefront business when DCR has determined that the application is complete and in compliance with equity share requirements. With the conclusion of Phase 3 Retail Round 1, the City of LA boasts the nation's largest cohort of social equity individual applicants to have access to cannabis retail license and business ownership opportunities. Next slide, please. DCR, as I mentioned, is currently accepting applications for testing laboratories, non-volatile manufacturing, distribution, and distribution transport only from all prospective commercial cannabis businesses. And DCR is accepting no storefront retail delivery applications from social equity applicants. Only social equity applicants can apply for delivery and license applications until January 1 of 2025. This is a recent amendment that was adopted by our city council last summer. Next slide, please. As of today, 455 commercial cannabis businesses have temporary approval to operate in the city. This slide shows the breakdown of license activities to date. We have 191 retail storefront licenses issued. We have not issued any delivery-only licenses, 266 non-volatile manufacturing licenses, 305 distribution, 311 cultivators. We have issued licenses for 2 testing labs, and that yields a total of 1,705 activities in the city. DCR encourages all potential applicants and licensees, and also for those looking for a licensed cannabis business to patronize, to utilize DCR's licensing map. I'm sorry, next slide. This map shows all retail locations that have received temporary approval to operate in the city of LA. To access this map, please visit cannabis.lacity.org and select licensing map under the licensing menu. I would like to pass the presentation now to our Social Equity Program Director, Dr. Imani Brown.
Thank you, Ms. Wiles, and good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Brown, and I am the Social Equity Program Director. Next slide, please. In all of the presentations that I've made, I'd like to start out with sharing with people the Social Equity Program mission statement, which is to promote equitable ownership and employment opportunities in the cannabis industry in order to decrease disparities in life outcomes for marginalized communities and to address the disproportionate impacts of the war on drugs in those communities. Next slide, please. The department supports the mission of the social equity program through established programming benefits and resources, which include application processing, business licensing and compliance assistance, access to a fee deferral and a fee waiver program, the SEED grant program, and access to pro bono legal services. And now I review the current status of our social equity program. This is just a snapshot of where we are. The application processing is available. Our SEED grant program launched on 4/20 and it's available. Our program, pro bono legal program, is available. Our business licensing and compliance is being developed, and our fee waiver and fee deferral program, I'll get into more detail as I move forward in the presentation. Now, first, I'd like to talk about the eligibility verification for the social equity program. Now, in order to participate in certain social equity programming, an individual must first be verified as a social equity individual applicant. Now, just for context, in order to participate in social equity programming, which includes application processing and a number of other programming components, individuals must first be verified to meet a certain criteria established under our municipal code. We want to remind everyone that the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance did amend the definition of low income, particularly as it is to capture information related to assets. The Cannabis Procedures Ordinance also amended what qualifies as a disproportionately impacted area. Now, of note, disproportionately impacted areas are now being defined as police reporting districts rather than zip codes, which is how the original criteria defined disproportionately impacted areas. Specifically to participate in the Phase 3 Retail Round 2 application lottery, it's not that folks have to meet any of two of the three. They specifically have to have a cannabis arrest or conviction and then meet the definition of low income or meet the definition of living or residing in a disproportionately impacted area for a period of 10 years. Now, a bit about the application process. The social equity program provides social equity applicants with priority processing and other application processing benefits. As we said before, is provided by the LA Municipal Code. As Ms. Wiles mentioned, we have already identified 200 Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants. Now, as it relates to retail and delivery licensure, application processing will be limited to social equity applicants only until January 1st, 2025. Next, I'd like to cover the Business Licensing and Compliance Assistance Program. The BLC program will provide social equity applicants with programming and training in the areas of state and local licensing requirements, commercial cannabis regulations and general business development, cannabis business development, and cannabis technology business development, as well as workforce development. DCR has selected 5 vendors who will develop this curricula. Notices to proceed have been issued, and we anticipate rolling out curriculum in early July. A few updates about our fee deferral and fee waiver program. In April of 2021, the City Council approved DCR's rules and regs for the fee deferral and fee waiver program. Subject to the availability of funds, DCR initially will apply up to $650,750 to social equity application eligibility verification fee waivers and verified social equity applicants. DCR may also defer temporary approval application fees up to 6 months for social equity applicants. Now, additional information will be shared as we move forward. For those who have interacted with DCR previously, you have heard about the Financial Grant Program, which is now known as the SEED Grant Program, which is an acronym for Social Equity Entrepreneur Development, our SEED Grant Program, which we're very excited about. On April 14th, 2021, the City of Los Angeles established the SEED Grant Program. The SEED Grant Program utilizes funds from the Cannabis Equity Grant for local jurisdictions that provides assistance to verified social equity applicants. Now, to date, The City of Los Angeles has dedicated $6 million toward the SEED grant program. The SEED grant program is administered in partnership with Elevate Impact LA and is currently only available to verified social equity individual applicants. We have two applications. SEED 1.0 is available to Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants deemed eligible for further processing, and it provides up to $25,000 in grant funding to applicants. SEED 2.0 is available for all other verified social equity applicants and provides up to $10,000 in grant funding. Additional information on the SEED grant program is available online at cannabis.lacity.org. I really encourage everybody to check out our website and get the information. It's a very simple application, and I think folks are going to be very pleased with this injection of funds. Lastly, I'll provide an update on our partnership with the LA County Bar Association as it relates to the social equity program and our applicants. Now, LACBA has officially launched the program and has begun matching qualified social equity applicants with a pro bono legal panel. For Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants who are interested in participating in this program, you must submit the Pro Bono Legal Services Survey and the Legal Services Authorization Agreement. They're very simple. It's a one-page survey and it's a one-page authorization agreement. DCR regularly sends out reminders to Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants about the access to the Pro Bono Legal Services Program. DCR will send additional reminders about the Pro Bono Legal Services to Phase 3 Retail Round 1 eligibility for further processing. We're going to send out monthly reminders so folks can participate in this service. The goals of this referral resource are to promote fair and equitable participation in the licensed commercial cannabis space and to foster a level playing field as it relates to access to legal counsel and help deter predatory practices targeting the social equity community. This is an excellent opportunity for applicants to connect with attorneys about their legal needs. Please check your emails or contact your designated analyst if you have any questions. And now I will turn the presentation over to our public relations specialist, Raina Plummer, who will provide additional information about our Spark program.
Thank you, Director Packer. Thank you, Dr. Brown. I'm sorry about that. In 2019, DCR was allocated funding from the city's general fund for use by the department to launch education and outreach programming. Once these resources were allocated, DCR released a request for proposals to identify a vendor who could help design and implement related education and outreach programming. This programming has since been referred to as stakeholder meetings and community listening sessions. After completing the procurement and contracting process, which included reviewing a number of proposals, holding interviews, mock sessions, and doing reference checks, DCR selected MBI Media as the successful vendor. Since December 2020, DCR and MBI Media have partnered to design and develop this initiative hereafter referred to as Spark. Here in the city of Los Angeles and across the country, many state and local governments are moving past policies of just saying no to cannabis and beginning to think more critically about the way that cannabis and cannabis policy impact our communities. Although the state of California voted to legalize recreational cannabis use for adults 21 and older in 2016, it wasn't until 2017 that the city of Los Angeles voted to allow cannabis businesses to be regulated and taxed. However, there's still a lot of work that remains to be done to ensure we approach cannabis more equitably and responsibly. We recognize that there are many questions and concerns about cannabis in our community and also recognize that current laws about cannabis continue to have significant impacts on issues like employment rights, housing rights, educational opportunities, and access to healthcare. And these laws and policies continue to have wide-ranging impacts on Angelenos, especially on marginalized communities. This is the genesis of Spark. With your help, DCR can support and provide the community with access, resources, and knowledge about cannabis activity in the city to our local community. Spark needs you, members of the local community and stakeholders impacted by cannabis policy or those seeking to affect cannabis policy to share your feedback with us so that when DCR makes future policy recommendations to local leaders, Those recommendations will be shaped by the individuals and communities most likely to be impacted. I will now pass the presentation over to Pamela Smith with MBI Media to give some brief info on the project.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer, and thank you all again for attending this evening. MBI Media is honored to work along DCR to administer Spark. At the end of the program, MBI Media will have developed and administered programming to collect and analyze stakeholder input through the following methodologies: stakeholder comments, stakeholder surveys, stakeholder interviews, stakeholder discussions. With an understanding of the purpose of the project and with specific goals, we aim to involve stakeholders from all corners of the city and anyone with an interest in cannabis policy reform. Stakeholders include, but are not limited to, elected officials and public agency staff, businesses, community organizations, cannabis professionals, universities and community colleges, college student councils and groups, healthcare providers, government, municipal, and emergency services. We need to hear from as many people as possible in order to create a robust report which will guide the development of future recommendations. I will now pass the presentation back over to Ms. Plummer with DCR to review Spark and its various engagement opportunities. And thanks again.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. This project is generally broken down into 5 key phases: collecting feedback, analyzing feedback, creating the final report. Then DCR and the commission will develop and present the report and recommendations to City Council and appropriate council committees. From there, it will be up to council and council committees to take action. The virtual meeting room that houses the Spark Initiative and engagement opportunities can be accessed from the DCR website. It is featured prominently on the homepage in the carousel, as a button on the homepage, and then as well as a landing page under the About menu. If you're in or around the city of Los Angeles, we want to spark a discussion about cannabis with you. I would now like to walk you all through the Spark Virtual Meeting Room. On April 20th, 2021, we launched the Spark Virtual Meeting Room. Inside the meeting room, you will notice different Spark stations and elements to engage with. Each station offers a unique way that you can interact with DCR, including our Spark sessions, the Spark Resource Center, Spark surveys, and the Spark comment box. Let's enter the room and visit the stations. The first station you'll see when you're in the virtual meeting room is the Spark Sessions station. Spark Sessions are virtual events dedicated to a specific topic DCR is seeking community feedback on, including licensing and regulation, the social equity program, corporate social responsibility, and community impact. In this station, you'll have access to the full calendar of Spark Sessions, a link to RSVP for different dates, and links to past session recordings. Members of the community can access the RSVP inside the virtual meeting room to sign up for future sessions, which are targeted to specific topics. Moving forward, our additional sessions will include an hour before each session that will be a public or stakeholder comment period. This stakeholder comment period will consist of 2 minutes each for each person who signs in to give general feedback on whichever topic they'd like to talk about. We want to know everything. The more people we hear from, again, the better. You can give us information on any topic related to cannabis policy in Los Angeles, community impact, corporate social responsibility. We want to hear from you. So that time before each of these sessions, again, we'll be opening up an hour before to allow for that time for you guys to join us. The sessions board inside of the meeting room will be updated within the next few days to reflect that additional stakeholder comment period. So please remember to RSVP and join us on those days. Here are some of the upcoming Spark sessions in the next few weeks. As we mentioned, this is the first Spark session. On moving forward, we'll have the stakeholder comment period. The next Spark session will be focused on the social equity program. It will be on Saturday, May 8th at 9 a.m. We'll start the stakeholder comment period, and the actual session will begin at 10 a.m. And then we have another session on May 12th, which will be targeted around licensing and regulation, again with the stakeholder comment period and the time of the session beginning at 6 p.m. And then on Saturday, May 15th, we will have a community impact Spark session that will begin at 10 a.m. with the stakeholder comment period beginning at 9 a.m. We recognize that everyone is not familiar with cannabis laws surrounding personal and commercial cannabis activity in the city and may not have previously heard about the Social Equity Program or DCR's commitment to equity. So we have developed this Spark Resource Station. Stations 2 and 3 include a set of collateral that will serve as a resource for members of the community on everything cannabis. The stations include fact sheets, FAQs, banners, and boards specific to the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance, benefits and resources of the Social Equity Program, and operating rules for legal cannabis retailers. Utilize these stations in preparation or in reference to the Spark sessions or the Spark surveys. The next station in the Spark is the Spark Survey Station. Spark surveys provide valuable input directly from the community on current policies and programming. Submitting a survey gives us anonymous feedback that can be quantified, analyzed, and used to develop strategic plans for the department, commercial cannabis activity in Los Angeles, and the growth and prosperity of the Social Equity Program. The Spark Survey Station currently has 2 surveys available for you to participate in. Click on the different information stands to take part of the different surveys. The 2 surveys currently are one on licensing regulation and the Social Equity Program, and the second covers corporate social responsibility and community impact. The Spark surveys are available through the virtual meeting room through June 30th, 2021. Do you have a thought you want to share with DCR, a problem you need solving, or just a general comment you've had about cannabis activity in the city of Los Angeles? Well, the Spark comment box is for you. The Spark comment box is active through June 30th, 2021, and allows community members to submit a tailored long form comment up to 250 words to DCR. Community participation is critical for the development of an equitable society, and we need your input. One thing I would like to note is that the Spark comment box is not a place to receive immediate feedback from DCR. To contact DCR directly, please visit the website at www.cannabis.lacity.org or during our new office hours, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Before I close, I'd like to spark a few reminders for you. The Spark virtual meeting room launched on April 20th and can be accessed through the DCR website at www.cannabis.lacity.org. The next Spark session will be held Saturday, May 8th, 2021, and will be focused on the Social Equity Program. The RSVP is available through the virtual meeting room. Spark surveys and Spark comment box are available through June 30th, 2021. Stay up to date with Spark by signing up for our email blast and checking out the website. As I mentioned, there's multiple ways to stay engaged and stay connected to Spark. Through the virtual meeting room, the DCR website, our email blast, the comment box, our surveys, and through the Spark sessions, which now include the stakeholder comment period prior to each session. I encourage members of the community to use the virtual meeting room to spark a conversation about cannabis in the city. This is a great way for those who are new to cannabis policy to learn about DCR, cannabis laws and activity, and the Social Equity Program in the city. Attend one of the Spark sessions to spark feedback on cannabis policy and social equity. Take a Spark survey to help us cultivate recommendations to deliver and distribute better services and programs to the cannabis community, and more specifically to the social equity community in this city. Prior to tonight's Spark session and throughout this event, we've received many questions related to the Spark initiative. We will now go over a few questions that we've received about Spark specifically and this initiative prior to closing remarks. One question that we've received about Spark is the best way to engage with it. How do you access the Spark virtual meeting room? As mentioned, you can visit the Spark virtual meeting room through the homepage. We have a carousel up there that has the link to our landing page on the website. It can then link you to the virtual meeting room. We also have links to the RSVP and the comment box and the 2 surveys that are available on that landing page. It also has any recent updates we've provided to our constituents about Spark and our launch, and we'll be adding the video from tonight onto that page as well, and it will also be in the virtual meeting room. So there's many ways to engage, and I encourage everybody to attend one of our Spark sessions to be able to learn more about specific topics. The Spark sessions will start to be more in-depth and more robust. We'll have breakout rooms, we'll be doing more polls and more different kind of unique, engaging ways to really get information from you all. And as I mentioned, we recognize that we need that direct feedback from everybody. So we have added an additional hour in front of each of the Spark sessions, which the calendar is in the virtual meeting room. But you can access that, again, virtual meeting room from cannabis.lacity.org. And then that Spark sessions calendar is in there, and it will be updated as well. But there will be an hour before each session that will include just general, everybody has 2 minutes to give us anything and everything you got. I think sometimes we're asked what makes this initiative different, and it is the fact that we are doing this collection very strategically, and we have a third party who's working with us to collect, and then we'll analyze that information and create these reports. So the more information and the more comments and the more feedback we get from the community, the better those recommendations can be. Let me look and see what other questions we might have related to social equity, to the one thing I do want to mention is we are getting a lot of specific licensing questions. And so those questions, if they're specific to an application you have or something something pending with the department, please make sure you email your analyst or DCR licensing at lacity.org to get information and updates. This session is more general. The next session we have is the social equity program session. We are collecting a lot of questions from a lot of you guys attending tonight was specific to the social equity program, and we'll build that into that program. Now, here's another great thing is the department really is focused on outreach and engagement, and we will be having another social equity program specific webinar. So next week, there's 2 opportunities to engage with the department about the social equity program. One is on Tuesday, May 4th, and that one is hosted by the social equity program, and Dr. Brown will be running that with her team, and they'll give really much more in-depth information on the seed grant program and everything that's entailed. Again, that's money that's available to those who are out there, those who are qualified and verified as social equity individual applicants. So I tell people like very much attend that session. Our social equity program Spark session is going to be more tailored to what the programs are and getting feedback on what you as a community needs and what you're looking for and what we can do to continue to be better as a department to serve our social equity community. So we encourage everybody, again, to attend those sessions. And prior to the next Spark session on May 8th, which will be at 10 a.m., we'll open up the meeting room at 9 a.m. to allow for stakeholder comments. And so again, you'll have 2 minutes and you can tell us anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be related to social equity or the social equity program, but we'd love to hear that feedback too. But we want to know everything. We need to hear everything. Again, we'll have MBI Media on the line to be able to speak to you guys. I know our session is supposed to run until 7 o'clock and it's 7:08. So I'm going to pass the presentation back over to Director Packer to give some closing remarks. And thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Ms. Plummer. And I want to thank members of the public, our cannabis regulation commissioners and DCR staff for joining today's conversation alongside MBI Media. Today's general spark session was really to frame a conversation so that we could focus on primarily give context for existing policy as it exists today in the city of Los Angeles. Our primary responsibility to date has been trying to design and implement programming related to our licensing program and our social equity program. But again, we know that there are many components of our licensing program and many components of our social equity program that have yet to be implemented. So Dr. Brown was talking previously about some of the equity programming that has existed in policy, maybe since 2017, or maybe came in a future iteration, but that has yet to be implemented. So I am seeing different comments and questions in the chat about certain programming that has yet to be implemented or that the department has yet to share information about. We do want to use this as an opportunity to collect information from the public about the prioritization of those policies, because often the department is either given specific instruction or due to resources, we're unable to prioritize the implementation of certain programming. And so even just hearing questions from community members asking about, the corporate social responsibility reports or things like community reinvestment, those are going to be important. And I want to encourage members of the public to use Spark as a vehicle to continue to raise items that are of priority to community. Part of our responsibility, in addition to advising cannabis policy and the administration of cannabis policy, is to try and balance all of the different priorities and responsibilities that we have on our plate. Unfortunately, because we have been successful over the course of the last several years in putting together foundational infrastructure and resources, I'm confident that Dr. Brown and her team are going to be in a position to implement some programming that has existed, for example, on the books, but that we haven't had the administrative support to date to implement. We know what some of those things are. We've been listening to stakeholders as they've come and shared emails with us or have sent letters to our office, or as we engage with folks in person. But what we want to be able to do again with this Spark initiative is to be able to collect and analyze that data in one specific place. We want to be able to collect that data in one specific place so that we can point to the report that MBI Media puts together and tell our council members and tell the mayor, these are items that the community is prioritizing. We want to prioritize these items as well. There was a slide that we shared during the presentation that tried to show the different steps along this process. The first step being that we're collecting feedback. And I do want to use this to reiterate that this will be a process. I don't want to, I want to use this as an opportunity to manage expectations, but also to encourage folks to be bold in articulating their priorities and their concerns. Ultimately, it has to be a joint responsibility and a collective responsibility. We want to be in a position where we can present these recommendations to the council, but then of course it's going to be up to the city council and the mayor as to what they do with these recommendations. But we want to be in a position where we can make recommendations that are stakeholder driven, that are community driven, and so we need to hear from you. I want to pass it over to our commission president and vice president while I try and hush this little guy.
Thank you, Director Packer. Got a lot of things I want to say, but I'll try to keep it brief. Specifically, I I wanted to just share with you in closing some of my thoughts with regard to the commission and also the department moving forward. Among some of my priorities for this commission, they include, just continually working with the department to find more efficient and more effective ways to process the applications. I know there's been a lot of frustration in the past, and we've got to find ways to communicate better with our applicants, with our stakeholders, and continue to explore ways that we can reduce hurdles and barriers for both existing operators and also future applicants and operators. Most importantly, we'll be looking at ways that we can improve upon and expand upon our existing social equity program. And I recognize what we have is we have a robust program in place, but I know it's not perfect and there's certainly room for improvement. One area that I would really like to prioritize is looking at ways that we can take a more holistic approach to social equity and what it can be, looking at ways that we can make a more broad and lasting impact through targeted community reinvestment. That's an idea that's been shared with us, again, from public input, and these are things that we are committed to exploring and implementing. And again, it's that input that's so important, and so that together we can help shape policy and create a legal cannabis system that is both thriving and equitable for all people. I also want to take a moment to talk about the realities that we face as a department and also as a city. There's no proven roadmap to what we're trying to do here. We're creating a legalized cannabis system out of nothing. It didn't exist before. This is our generation's end of the prohibition. And so there's no seamless way to launch a new cannabis industry here in Los Angeles, especially if you consider a city as large as Los Angeles, as diverse as Los Angeles. We are the largest legal cannabis market, not just in the country, but if you think about it, in the world. And so with that, there's a lot of opportunity, but equal challenges as well. To date, I know there's been a lot of frustration in some of the delays that we've experienced, and these are part of the growing pains. It's a natural phenomenon, and those growing pains will continue. We just have to be patient and work through these issues. But I must say that these issues are not unique to Los Angeles. Every jurisdiction that I've studied that has come before us, whether it's in the United States or even in Canada, where they have a fully legalized system at the national level, there are difficulties all around, and those difficulties continue to be experienced at almost every jurisdiction. But I just want to make a commitment and just be rest assured that this department, this commission has and will continue to work hard on your behalf. We're going to constantly get better, listen to your input, and we're going to adapt to a continually changing landscape. All things considered, as we look back on the last couple of years, I think we've accomplished a lot together. And those accomplishments will only continue to grow as we move forward. As I mentioned, we're going to have commissioners at every one of these Spark sessions, and we're listening to you. We need that input. And through this continued public comment, through this public engagement, and with the Spark initiative, we're looking forward to gathering your comments, organize them into reports, and make the necessary recommendations that are needed to improve upon our existing system. And moving forward, you can expect a more active commission, one that will represent your interests, and most importantly, a commission that will serve as your voice. It's been an absolute honor to serve you, and we thank you for your participation. Vice President Mason.
Hello, this is Vice President Mason. We've heard a lot this evening. We've heard a lot since I've been a commissioner, and I'm hopeful. We were already dealing with some difficulties when the COVID-19 pandemic came upon us, and that certainly did not help us to expedite anything. And so as the department moves forward in their endeavors, it is my hope and whatever sweat equity I need to put into making this happen, I'm here for, that by 4/20 of next year, I hope and pray that all of our social equity licensees are up and running. Now, that's not a guarantee, but that is a hope of mine personally. And I would really like to see some movement towards the community reinvestment program over the course of the next year. As far as the community, I know that there are some great ideas out there. You've already been sparked, you've already been on fire. So continue with that energy. If you are sparked to submit more policy recommendations, please do so. If you have friends who have recommendations, please encourage them to do so. This is a joint effort, and we want to partner with you to move this program forward and just to build the Los Angeles cannabis regulation program into the model program that the world can look to and say, hey, we want to do it like Los Angeles because they got it right. Thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you so much to Commission President Ahn and Vice President Mason for your remarks. I'm very excited about this initiative as it exists as an opportunity to move this conversation forward. This is not going to be the end all be all. This is one initiative, one tool that we want to try and use to uplift communities and their concerns and their priorities. We recognize that we still have a lot of work to do again. We want to make sure that we're informed in making policy recommendations. And I also want to iterate that we're constantly raising these issues with City Council, but it also helps for us to be able to have an analysis that we can point to and be able to articulate, that X percentage of individuals who live in your council district, who live in this community, want to see this particular policy. So I know that different individuals and organizations have been organizing around different cannabis policy priorities, different administrative priorities, different priorities around the budget. I would encourage you all to use this as your forum to share information. Because I want to be well aligned with community when we make recommendations based off of the input that we receive in this report. So again, we want to use this as an opportunity to uplift things like corporate social responsibility, like addressing disparities in enforcement, continuing to raise the issue of community reinvestment and how we use cannabis tax dollars to go back into communities who are most impacted. And I think that Vice President Mason may have said it best. We want to model what the most equitable, what the most responsible cannabis policies look like here in the country. And we know that we're not there yet. And we know that in order to move this conversation forward, we need to be able to spark change in our community. So I appreciate folks' time. I apologize for going over. We look forward to connecting with you through all of our Spark initiatives that we have moving forward. I'll pass things back to you, Ms. Plummer.
Thank you, Director Packer, and thank you all for joining us here tonight. We really appreciate your time. We look forward to seeing you at the next Spark session and throughout the Spark virtual meeting room. Have a great night.